some devotees that Swamiji has answered. So this question is by Shri Phani, and he is asked as to how one can achieve the state of aspiration-free sacrifice to God. So the detailed question is, a devotee asked me about the first step to achieving Nishkama Karma Yoga, which is the state of practical service without aspiring for any fruit in return. I told him that the first step is to pray to God without aspiring for any fruit in return from Him. I also told him that I will ask you and convey your reply to him. So Swami replied, O learned and devoted servants of God, what you told is not the first step, because it is both the first and the last step. There is no other step other than that step. I'll repeat, there is no other step other than that step. This concept of Nishkama Karma Yoga is only confined to God, and it is not to be extended to the world. The word yoga means association with God alone. While serving God, you should not aspire for any fruit in return. Jnana yoga means studying about God. Jnana by itself means studying about any subject in general. Similarly, bhakti yoga means loving God alone. Bhakti by itself means loving anything in general. Also, karma yoga means the practical service and sacrifice done to God. Karma by itself means the same done for the world. So what is happening is the word yoga, when you attach the word yoga, it means only that activity done towards God. The word yoga makes all the difference. Otherwise, if you take jnana, bhakti, karma, these three words can be interpreted in any way because they may relate to the world or they may relate to God, they may relate to any item. But when you use the word yoga along with jnana, bhakti or karma, then it means that that activity, that respective activity is being done only for God. So this point must be kept in mind since it is very important. Otherwise, you will be exploited by tricksters in the world, people who trick others. When the word yoga is used, it limits the concept to God alone and it cannot be extended to the world. If you serve your employer without the aspiration for any fruit in return from him, he will exploit you and accumulate profits. You must wear the sweater of clever intelligence whenever you move around in the world. Otherwise, you will be attacked by the cold winter winds, which are wicked tricksters. You must wear clothes as per the external atmosphere. The next question is by Dr. JSR Prasad. It is, what is the total sacrifice of the fruit of one's work? The detailed question is, can you kindly enlighten me about the total sacrifice of the fruit of one's work, which is called Sarva Karma Phalatyaga, as mentioned in the Gita, with reference to a common man. So he's asking how the common man can do Sarva Karma Phalatyaga, which is the total sacrifice. So Swami replied, wealth is the fruit of one's work and it is to be sacrificed to God. The common man does this total sacrifice of the fruit of his work when he surrenders his entire life for the service of God alone. When the ultimate goal of your life is serving God and pleasing Him, all the expenses incurred by you for your own sake and for the sake of your family, come under the account of God alone. To serve God, you must first stay alive. To keep yourself alive, some expenditure is inevitable. Similarly, without the assistance of your family, you cannot remain alive. This means that you have to maintain your family too. All this essential expenditure is treated to be done for the sake of God alone. All of it becomes Nishkama Karma Yoga. This becomes valid only when you keep the service of God as the climax goal of your life. Otherwise, the expenditure made by you for yourself and your family does not count as Nishkama Karma Yoga. So in this way, every common man can do Sarva Karma Phalatyaga. The Gita itself says that without working and earning, none can maintain his own human body and remain alive. Sharira yatra pichate na prasiddhyeda karmanah. This is said in the Gita. The next question is by Dr. K.V. Prasad. He asks, how can God be our father, son, husband, and so on? So he is describing, I read a verse in a prayer that says, O God Krishna, you alone are my father and mother. You alone are my preacher and friend. You alone are my son and daughter. You alone are my husband and darling. This is very much true. That's the verse. So now Prasad ji is asking, how can one God be the father, son, husband, etc.? Swami replied, suppose you have a large water tank and several water pipelines run from the tank to various houses. Water is flowing through all the pipelines in more or less quantities. Similarly, you have several worldly bonds like those with your father, mother, husband, wife, son, daughter, etc. And your love is flowing in all these bonds from your heart in more or less quantities. Suppose now you add a very large diameter pipeline from the water tank to supply water to the palace of the king. The water will now flow through this large pipeline in a huge quantity, and all the small pipelines connected to the various houses will run empty. Not even a drop of water will reach those houses. This large diameter pipeline is the bond with God through which your love flows full force. We can call this large water pipeline by the name of any of the houses. Every other water pipeline is totally empty, and that single large pipeline alone carries all the water. This means that the single bond with God alone is full of love, whereas all worldly bonds do not have even a drop of love in them. Such a situation is called the stage of single-pointed devotion or Eka Bhakti. You may call that single bond of yours with God by any name, such as the bond with your father, mother, brother, sister, son, daughter, husband, darling, or friend. It does not mean that the same water pipeline has two or more names. It only means that you have called the large water pipeline by any one of the names as per your choice, since all the other pipelines are empty in any case. Hence, Eka Bhakti means that your bond with God is the large pipeline which is full of water, full of the water of your love, and it is called by the name of your choice, like father, mother, etc. It means that all the other pipelines representing other bonds are totally empty and they do not carry even a drop of the water of your love. Your large pipeline of love for God possesses only one name, which is as per your liking. It does not have a second name. I hope you have understood the concept and that it removes your confusion. The next question is by Ms. Lakshmi Trailokya. She is asking, why do we not get bored of the world despite being born repeatedly? The detailed question is, definitely this birth is not our first birth as a human being. Every soul was born and has died 1,000 times. We have had 1,000 sets of parents, 1,000 sets of spouses, 1,000 sets of children. We have built our careers 1,000 times before. But why do we not get completely bored of this world? Generally, we get bored if we perform the same routine task again and again. But here, why are we not getting bored of the world? Why do worldly things still seem to be interesting and new? Swami replied, you have not had multiple sets of parents, spouses, etc. in the same birth. Even though you have had multiple sets of these worldly bonds over several births, you do not have the memory of those previous births. You will certainly get bored if you watch 100 movies one after the other without a gap. You will also get bored if you watch 100 movies in 100 days because the memory of the earlier movies watched by you is still there in your mind. In the case of multiple births, the memory of every previous birth is completely erased in every new birth that you get. If you watch 100 movies at the rate of one movie per day, such that for every new movie, the memory of the previous movie is completely erased, then you will never get bored. You will be watching every new movie with a totally fresh mind. The omniscient and omnipotent God is careful about taking care of such petty issues in his divine administration. The next question is by Shri Bharat. He asks, why does God make a soul forget the skills acquired in the past birth? So the detailed question is, I wanted to ask the same question asked by Trailokya. I want to add a little more to the same question. There are a few kids who show excellent skills even at a very young age of say 5 years. I too would have developed so many skills during my past lives. Why do I not get those skills in this birth of mine? I feel that if I had retained some of the skills from my past lives, like those blessed children, I would not have had to struggle so much for earning money in this birth. Even the Gopikas were sages in their past life. They were super intellectuals. But in their next birth, they did not retain any of their intellectual skills. Does God take away my skills when I die? I am definitely asking this question out of ignorance. Kindly answer my question. Pada Pranams, Swamiji. Swami replied, as I have already pointed out in answering the other question, the memories of the previous birth are completely erased to give a fresh mind to the soul before starting every new birth. The omnipotent God has the power to let certain souls retain some skills from the previous birth or to remove all previous skills. Such decisions are made by God for the sake of special purposes which help the soul as well as the world. By giving new births to the learned sages as ignorant gopikas, God removed their ego of knowledge, jnana-hankar. God also removed the other two forms of ego of the sages. Their ego of high caste was removed when God gave them birth in the low caste of cowherds. He removed their ego of gender by giving them birth as females. God thus helped them in three ways, and that help from God allowed them to succeed in their spiritual efforts. The next question is by Shri Balaji. He asks, which Sambhuti worship and Vidya is said to be good? The detailed question is, Namaste Swami. As part of the divine knowledge, you recently delivered, as part of the divine knowledge you recently delivered on the difficult verses from the Isha Upanishad, the following sentence on the wrong path of Sambhuti Upasana is given. And the quoted sentence is, in other words, if the material of God's medium alone is worshipped, or the manifested creation in general is worshipped, neglecting God, then it is bad. So now Dr. Balaji is asking again, kindly clarify further about the incorrect practices of worship indicated in the above sentence. Following is my understanding. The worship of God's medium alone neglecting God is criticized. The medium of God's incarnation is the human being. Thus, the attachment to the family, as well as social service done to human beings without any reference to God, is said to be incorrect. The worship of the manifested creation, neglecting God, is also criticized. It means all ritualistic worship, such as done following the path of Purva Mimamsa, as well as any worldly activity done without reference to God, is said to be incorrect. Sincerely, Balaji. Swami replied, the medium of God is quantitatively limited. The medium of God is the quantitatively limited manifested creation or Sambhuti. That quantitatively limited manifested creation is good and helpful to the devotee because through it, the devotee can worship God. That worship of God is upasana. Succeeding in the practical worship of God, practical worship here means sambhuti upasana. So succeeding in the practical worship of God by conquering selfishness and greed is also good, and it is the final step in the worship. The worship of the rest of the manifested creation, which also can be called sambhuti upasana, manifested creation is sambhuti. So the worship of the rest of the manifested creation, such as through social service, is also good as long as you do it only because God likes it. The reason for your liking towards social service, which is the worship of the rest of manifested creation, must only be your liking for whatever God likes. So what Swamiji means over here is you should like whatever God likes and you should dislike whatever God dislikes. You should not like social service because of social service itself, but you should like serving society because God likes you serving society. So Swamiji continues, it should not be your direct liking for the manifested creation or humanity. If you are interested in serving humanity directly without caring for what God likes or dislikes, then such direct worship of humanity is criticized. The Upanishad says that such direct worship of humanity or the manifested creation leads to a deeper darkness. Sage Bharata was born a deer due to his direct love for a deer, which represents the love for the manifested creation neglecting God. Vidya means the knowledge of the manifested creation. The good form of Vidya is the knowledge of the medium of God. If you take Vidya as the knowledge of the rest of the manifested creation, again it leads to a deeper darkness. The worship of the unmanifested and unimaginable item, which is asambhuti, and is criticized as darkness because it is totally impossible to worship such original, absolute, and unimaginable God, as said in the Gita, avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavapyate. The word rataha in the Upanishad means those who have a fascination for the rest of creation, the rest of the manifested creation, neglecting the medium of God. This means that if you are the climax devotee of God, you must like whatever God likes and dislike whatever God dislikes. Your liking must only be based on whether God likes it or not. It should not be based on whether it is good and justified or not, based on your own analysis. You must have firm faith that when God likes something, it must be good and justified because God is omniscient and your knowledge is very little, which may easily turn out to be false. So whatever we think is right or justified due to our very little knowledge can easily turn out to be false, whereas that is not the case of God. So I just want to check if Swamiji is here because the next discourse is a slightly more technical in nature. It is a question asked by Dr. J.S.R. Prasad, um, and it is related to the Advaita philosophy. It is an excellent discourse. Swamiji has given it in 6 parts. I would like to read it if everybody doesn't mind it. It is going to be a slightly technical, but if you don't mind, I would like to continue. That's why I wanted to ask Swamiji if I should read it or not, but Swamiji is not here right now. So, what do you say? Shall I continue with it?
Sir, I would. Yes, sir. Yes, that's my opinion.
Hey, do you have other questions? Do you have other questions also? You can finish them, na?
No, these are all the questions are over. That's why.
Okay, then there is no option, na? Then you can continue.
Correct. So, If something gets confusing, please try to stop me, and then if I know, I will answer. Otherwise, we'll ask Swamiji later.
Sure.
Okay, so this is related to Prasadji's question. So Prasadji has asked the question that the logic presented by Advaita philosophers seems to be very powerful. And in that case, how can we say that the soul or the individual soul is not God? So I think this has been the experience of many devotees where they tend to get into a debate with people from different philosophies, including the Advaita philosophy and also many other philosophies. And where the people over the years, because each of these philosophies have been around for many centuries, and so lots of scholars have brought up a number of different arguments, ways of approaching different types of logic they have developed over so many centuries. And beating that logic becomes a little challenging for people like us who are just learning spirituality. And so, this is a problem that Prasad ji has also experienced, and he has brought that question to Swamiji. So Swamiji has given a very elaborate answer to that. So we will go step by step, and it's quite large. We may end up covering only less than half of it today, and then maybe next time we'll cover the rest. So this first part is related to the fact that uh, Shankaracharya's Bhashya is a commentary. Shankaracharya wrote a commentary on the Upanishads. The Upanishads are the philosophical part of the Veda. Then he wrote a commentary on, Shankaracharya wrote the Bhashya on 10 Upanishads or 11 Upanishads, which are among the few hundred Upanishads that exist, or the few hundred Upanishads that are known. Shankaracharya wrote his Bhashya only on these 10 or 11 Upanishads. That Bhashya that Shankaracharya wrote has become the basic foundation of most philosophical theories and discussions after Shankaracharya. So it has been extremely influential in Hindu philosophy in the past 1,000-2,000 years. So Shankaracharya wrote the Bhashya or the commentary on the Upanishads. Then he also wrote a Bhashya on the Bhagavad Gita, and he wrote another Bhashya, an extraordinary Bhashya on the Brahma Sutras. The Brahma Sutras were composed by sage Vyasa. So these three scriptures, the Upanishads or the Veda in general, the Gita and the Brahma Sutras, these are called the Prasthanatraya or Prasthanatrayi. These are the three foundational scriptures of scholarly debate or Hindu philosophy, you can say, Vedantic philosophy particularly. So Shankaracharya's Bhashya or commentary was by later scholars, it was criticized, and the critics called it Maya Bhashyam. So now Swamiji, you just see what creative and beautiful way Swamiji has justified that term Maya Bhashya. So the people who called it Maya Bhashya, actually they, in a derogatory sense, in order to put down Shankaracharya, they use the word Maya Bhashya. But Swamiji has actually turned that as an advantage. So you just read this paragraph and you will realize how Swamiji has done it. So Swamiji replied, O learned and devoted servants of God, the logic presented in the Advaita philosophy came from Shankara, who was an incarnation of God Shiva. Naturally, the logic is as powerful as the fire from the third eye of God Shiva, which is the eye of knowledge. Shankara was Shiva, and Shiva is Ishvara, who is the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of this entire creation. This world was created by him in a wonderful and unimaginable way called Maya. Maya means, in simple words, it is like something like magic. Okay, he created it magically. So, but Maya, obviously, there is a difference between a magic trick done by a magician and Maya. Maya is an actual, it's an illusion. It's a global level illusion. So, Swamiji will explain that uh, in the next paragraphs. So, this world was created by him in a wonderful and unimaginable way called Maya. When Shankara composed his commentary or Bhashyam, that commentary again was composed in an unimaginable way. Hence, it is called Maya Bhashyam. The word Maya should not be taken in the wrong sense here. In one sense, Maya means an illusion that misleads a person. But Shankara's commentary is not Maya in the sense that it misleads the right people, taking them to the wrong path. It is Maya in the sense that it is something that is wrong because it is an illusion. So, it is Maya in the sense that it is something that is wrong, but which appears to be right for the wrong people and which is meant to bring the wrong people to the right path. That's a little confusing sentence, but what it means in short is that it is an illusion meant to bring the already misled people back to the right path. So what Swamiji is saying is, to the people who have gone on the wrong path of atheism, Shankara gives this Maya Bhashyam, which appears to be correct to these wrong people, so that they will come to the right path. Instead of getting it will mislead the misled people, and thereby it will bring them to the right path. That is what Swamiji is saying. So the other angle of Shankara's commentary is that it also simultaneously appears to be right to the right people. So the people who are already on the right theistic path, to them it is Shankaracharya's Bhashya is true in a straightforward manner. To the people who are on the wrong path of atheism, for them it will mislead them. They are already misled. So two negatives make a positive. So it will mislead the misled people, which means it will bring them to the right path. But to the people who are not misled, who are on the path of theism, Shankaracharya's Bhashya will appear very straight and direct, and it is also true in a direct sense also. This is the wonder. So that same Bhashya appears different to different people, and it has the effect of bringing the person or maintaining the person on the right path. This is the wonder of Shankara's commentary. Calling the commentary Maya Bhashyam is thus justified, since the root meaning of the word Maya as that which is unimaginable and wonderful is fully justified by the commentary. Maya Vaichitriya. So that which is wonderful, that which is unimaginable is referred to as Maya. So when you say it is Maya, it has come from the same word Maya. It means that which is unimaginable and wonderful. So Shankaracharya's commentary is has been written in an unimaginable way. It is so wonderful that it brings the wrong people to the right path and it maintains the right people on the right path. So, uh, although it contains an illusion, it also contains an illusion, but that illusion works in a very beautiful manner, wonderful manner. So, it is true that it is a Maya Bhashyam. So, the next section is related to the situation during the time of Shankara. So when Shankara arrived in this world, the situation was that the majority around him were atheists. They belonged to the Purva Mimamsaka sect or they belonged to Buddhism. Both these
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, but sir, here we understood the point how Shankaracharya misled the already misled people by telling that you are God. But
Hmm.
how did he maintain right people in the right path? It is misleading only, He says,
So that no, I should not actually reveal the suspense, but anyway, I will tell you because otherwise it will lead to confusion. The statement that every soul is God may not be true, but the statement that soul is God is true in the case of the incarnation. So the people who believe in the incarnation, who are already on the right path, for them the soul is God, literally. That is true. So in a direct way it is true. Suppose you are standing in front of Lord Krishna and then you are saying that the soul is God. It means the soul of Krishna is God. That is true.
Understood,
Hello?
sir. Understood, sir.
Huh.
Yes, sir.
So for the wrong people, it will be a deception. It will be an illusion. For the right people who have the correct belief, for them it will be true in a straightforward manner also.
Yes, sir. Got it, sir.
Hello?
Yes, Swamiji.
There is also one more point in that.
Yes, Swamiji.
See, he was surrounded by atheists.
Yes, Swamiji.
He was completely filled with atheists in his time.
Correct.
And an atheist will not believe in the existence of God unless you say that he is God.
Correct, Swamiji.
Atheist will not agree the existence of God other than him. So it is inevitable for Shankara. Hello, are you hearing?
Yes, Swamiji.
It is inevitable for Shankara to say that the soul is God, soul exists, so therefore God exists. So for the sake of ethics, for Shankara, it is inevitable to say that soul is God.
Yes, Swamiji. Yes, Swamiji.
But he cannot say that atheistic soul alone is God.
Yes,
He has
yes.
to say that every soul is God.
Correct.
He cannot say that only atheistic soul is God. He
Correct.
cannot also say that only incarnation soul is God. He has to say that every soul is God.
Yes.
He is forced to say that every soul is God.
Yes, Swamiji.
Written in the part 1 or part 2 somewhere.
Yes, Swamiji. It is coming, Swamiji. Next paragraph only, that same point is there. In part 1 only it is there.
Yes. If you can proceed.
Yes, Swamiji. So the point that Swamiji was mentioning, that the situation during Shankara's time, we have to first understand that situation. Otherwise, we cannot understand what he is saying, why he is saying that. So when Shankara arrived in this world, the situation was that the majority around him were atheists. They belonged to the Purva Mimamsaka and sect and the Buddhists. His primary aim was to turn these people from the wrong path of atheism to the correct path of theism. An atheist does not agree to the existence of any god other than himself at any cost. Hence, it becomes inevitable to begin the process of upliftment of the atheist with the false idea that the atheist himself is God. Shankara chose to call the soul in the body as God because the soul is at least relatively permanent with respect to the highly temporary body. The body will disintegrate after this birth, but at least that soul will remain from one body to other. So it is at least relatively permanent. So that which is relatively permanent, he called that as ultimately permanent, and he called that soul as God. So he said that the soul, due to its relative permanence, is real, and that the body, due to its impermanence, is unreal. Of course, the soul, which is awareness, is not actually real and permanent. Awareness is only a specific work form of inert energy. The inert energy gets converted into awareness in a specific system, which is a functioning nervous system of an animal or human being. It is similar to inert energy in the form of it is similar to the case where inert energy in the form of electricity gets converted into grinding work in a specific machine called a grinding machine. The same inert energy also gets converted into cutting work in another specific machine called a cutting machine. So similarly, that same inert energy in a specific machine or in a specific device called the nervous system, when the inert energy enters it, it gets converted into awareness. So it is basically, awareness is only a work form of energy. It is not something divine or something. It is only a form of energy. So the next section, and this is a remarkable section where Swamiji is proving that the relatively real awareness can absolutely not be the original unimaginable God. So Swamiji says, I will prove that this awareness is not God. Awareness is only a relatively real item like any other item of this world. The world too is imaginable to us, and it is only relatively real. I promise you that in proving that awareness is not God, I will confine myself only to the discussion of awareness and its related process of knowing. I will not touch the three aspects of creating, maintaining, and destroying the world, which clearly differentiate God from the soul. The Brahma Sutras have already differentiated God from the soul on the basis of these three unique characteristics of God. So only God can create the world, maintain the world, and destroy the world. The soul cannot do that. Jagat Vyapara Varjam, says the one of the Brahma Sutras. The soul cannot do that, whereas God is defined based on these three unique characteristics, Janmad Yasya Yataha. So that is a clear-cut distinguishing characteristic, differentiating feature between the soul and God. But Swamiji is saying he is not going to use that. Okay, he is going to prove that soul or awareness is not God without using this. So I'll just repeat that sentence. The Brahma Sutras have already differentiated God from the soul on the basis of these three unique characteristics of God. But to simply prove that awareness is not God, I need not bring these three characteristics of God. It would be like using the divine Sudarshana Chakra to cut the head of a small rat. Staying within the boundaries of awareness and its property called knowledge, I will prove that awareness is not God. But note that by doing so, it does not mean that I am criticizing Shankara. Shankara wrote his commentary in accordance with the mentality of the atheists whom he wanted to uplift. The approach taken by Shankara was inevitable for anybody in his position. He had a specific aim of turning atheists into theists. For that purpose, saying that the soul itself is God served as the most powerful attraction. Without this powerful attraction, there's no way of converting such egoistic atheists who are as hard as rocks. But the present Advaita philosopher is to be condemned because without realizing this background, he is running after that attraction of becoming God. Chocolates are given to a kid to encourage it to go to the kindergarten class, and that is perfectly justified. But if a postgraduate student also demands chocolates to go to the university, it is highly deplorable. So now Swamiji is going to give the basic framework of the logic, and based on that framework, that framework is related to the process of knowing. So for each of those components, Swamiji is going to prove that there is a difference between God and the soul. Okay, so the ultimate result is going to be that there is total difference between God and the soul. So now the heading is the soul and its instruments. Now let me proceed to prove that this relative awareness is not the absolute God. Let us remember the basic structure of logic before we examine this issue of awareness and its process of knowing. You see a pot with your eyes and you come to know the pot, which means that you have got the knowledge of the pot. In this process of knowing, there are four components. The first is you, the subject. That subject is called pramata. It is the knower. This subject is the awareness that finally gets the knowledge of the pot. The second component is the object. It is called prameya, which is the pot. The pot is the item that is known. It is the object. The subject knows the object. The subject is your awareness, that is the pramata, and prameya is the object, which is the pot, which gets known. The third component is the instrument or the means used in order to get the knowledge of the pot. It is called the pramanam. So the pramata using the pramanam gets the prama, the next component, which is the knowledge of the prameya. So we are in the third component. The third component is the instrument or the means to get the knowledge of the pot. It is called the pramanam. Logic says pramakaranam pramanam. Okay, that which means that the pramanam is the instrument or means used for getting knowledge. The instrument in this case is the external eye, which is associated with awareness through the nerves. The mere physical eye without the mind or awareness behind it is a useless instrument. When the object is some internal idea, the mind alone becomes the instrument. So there the external instrument is not at all required. Hence, actually the instrument is not the external eye or the external ear. It is the awareness itself which is the instrument. So the third component, which is the pramanam or the instrument, is actually it is part of the awareness itself. The subject who comes to know the knowledge is also the awareness, but the instrument is also awareness. Okay, and Swamiji is going to clarify that later with an example of a lamp. The fourth component in this process of knowing is the result or the fruit of this process. It is called prama, which is the knowledge of the pot. Logic says that the fruit is that for which the instrument is being used. For instance, an axe is the instrument used to cut the tree. Hence, cutting the tree itself is the fruit. Chidakaranasya chideva phalam. That is said in the logical scripture. So now let us take, I'll just repeat all the four components. The first component is the pramata, which is the subject, the one who is the knower, pramata. Okay, the second is the object, which is the pot to be known. Okay, that is called prameya. The third is the instrument, which is called pramanam, and that pramanam is also part of your own awareness. It is not, we are not giving the status of instrument to the eye or the ear. Even to the external senses, we are not going to give that status, because Swamiji has brought up a nice point that when you are perceiving your own thoughts, then at that point, where is your eye being used? Your eye is not getting used over there. So it is the awareness itself which should be treated as the instrument. And without that awareness, even your eye or your ear or your nose, that is all ineffective. It will be a useless instrument. So the awareness itself is the instrument. So first component is pramata, the subject. Second component is the object, which is the prameya. Third is the pramanam, which is the instrument, which is your awareness itself. And the fourth is the knowledge that you obtain, the result or the fruit. Okay, that is prama. So like I said before, the pramata using the pramanam gets the prama, which is the knowledge of the prameya. Okay, so this is the four component process of logic. Now Swamiji is going to take each of those components and prove that in each of those components the soul is different from God. Okay, God differs from the soul from the standpoint of each of these items. This is going to come up. So the first, let's take the first one, which is pramata. And now Swamiji is going to prove that God differs from the soul from the standpoint of the subject or the pramata. So in the above logical structure, we find that both the subject and the instrument are awareness itself. The concentrated awareness is like a lamp, and that is the subject. And the diluted awareness is the light spreading out from the lamp, which is used as the instrument, that is the pramanam. So the subject, which is the lamp, is the instrument, and the light emanating from that lamp, okay, is the instrument. So both are one and the same awareness. Another example, a lump of gold and the golden ornament are one and the same gold. The individual soul, which is known as the jiva, is a bundle of thoughts. So that jiva is awareness. It is like the lump of gold. The soul's internal instruments, that we looked at those, the pramanam, the internal instruments, which are known as antakaranams, the internal instruments, are also made of awareness, and they are like the golden ornaments. So the awareness of the soul is like the lump of gold. Its modified form, which is like the golden ornaments, are the antakaranams. So basically, the soul and its instruments are only awareness. Whether you are observing an external item or an internal idea, which appears to be materialized in a dream, the actual instruments used are only the antakaranams. They are nothing but the same awareness, which is the individual soul. The external instruments like the eyes need not be considered as instruments, because without the mind or awareness, any external instrument is a complete zero. Now, there are 4 internal instruments or antakaranams. The fluctuating faculty, the changing faculty, which proposes one thought and disposes it in favor of another thought, is called manas or mind. The first antakaranam is manas or mind. And what is the nature of that? To propose one thought and then dispose of it and propose another thought. Okay, so that is the nature, changing nature, that refers to the antakaranam called manas or mind. The second antakaranam is the analytical and deciding faculty, that is called the intellect or buddhi. The third one is your own self-identity, the I within you, the I thought, is called ahankara. It is the basic ego of the person. In this context, the basic ego means only the I thought of self-identity. It does not mean pride, because ego has 2 meanings. The word ego has 2 meanings. Ego means self, and ego also means pride. So that pride, when ego is used in the sense of pride, it means an inflated sense of self. So that is not the meaning we are taking over here. Swamiji is only sticking to the basic ego. Basic ego is the self-identification. That's all. Yes. Okay. So far among the 4 antakaranas, we saw the first one, which is manas, which is the changing faculty. The second, we saw the deciding or analytical faculty, which is the buddhi. The third, we saw the self-identification or basic ego, that is called ahankara. And the fourth now is chittam, which is memory. Now, all these 4 internal instruments are made of awareness, and they are used to get knowledge of different internal as well as external objects. Now, the basic awareness is the actual subject, and its fundamental characteristic is to know. How do you say that something is aware when it can know? To be aware of means to have the knowledge of. So the basic awareness is the actual subject or pramata, and what is its fundamental characteristic? It is to know. Now notice that the basic ego or the I thought is only treated to be an internal instrument. It is not treated to be the subject. This is because it is possible for the basic awareness to know the I thought, in which case the I thought becomes an object. Thus, the conclusion arrived so far is that the basic awareness, which is the subject. Okay, let me read it again. the conclusion arrived at so far is that the basic awareness, which is the subject or pramata, is made of awareness. It is basically awareness. Okay. And the four internal instruments are also made of awareness. So the basic awareness is the lump of gold, which is going to be the subject over here, while the internal instruments are like golden ornaments. So anyway, it is the entire drama is only of gold. Okay. The entire drama is only of awareness. The basic awareness is the subject, and then all the instruments, they are also made of awareness. So at this point, the Advaita philosopher jumps out of his seat crying that he has found the basic awareness, which itself is God or Brahman. Unfortunately, it is not true. The basic awareness is only a relatively real item of the imaginable creation, and it is not God. I am not saying that the Advaita philosopher's analysis up to this point is wrong. I am also not saying that the basic awareness that he has found out is wrong. His analysis to find out the basic awareness is perfect, and the result of identifying the basic awareness also is perfect. He has done a lot of hard work by digging a huge hill with heavy machines and cranes. Unfortunately, after all that hard work, he has only found a small rat. The real treasure to be discovered lies buried far deeper under the hill. The petty rat discovered so far is the basic awareness. This basic awareness is not the absolute reality. It is a part of the imaginable creation, and it depends on both matter and energy. Hence, this awareness found in a human being is only a relative awareness. The magnificent treasure still lying undiscovered is the unimaginable God. In this failure to discover God, where lies the error? If you analyze carefully in the above picture, the subject is the relative awareness, which is like the basic lump of gold. The instrument is also the same relative awareness in a particular mode, which is like a golden ornament. Both the subject and the instrument are the relatively real awareness alone. That awareness is an imaginable created item. Let us take the case of God. God is the absolute reality and is unimaginable as per the Veda, the Gita, and the Brahma Sutras. You have in the Veda, it is said, Yasya matam tasya matam, matam yasya na vedasaha. That proves his unimaginability. In the Gita, we have the statement, Mam tu vedana kaschana, meaning nobody can ever know God. If you look at the Brahma Sutras, it is said, Janmadyasya yataha. So he is only defined, God is only defined in an indirect way, not in a direct way, because directly you can never know his nature. Only his associated characteristic of creating, maintaining and destroying the world can be known as per the Brahma Sutras. So all these quotations from the three, earlier I was mentioning the Prasthanatrayi. We have the three fundamental scriptures of Vedanta and of generally of Indian philosophy. These three scriptures are unanimous. They are saying that God is the absolute reality and that absolute reality is unimaginable. So all these scriptures only provide us incidental indications or associated characteristics of God, which are called Tatastha Lakshanam. Tatastha Lakshanam means incidental indication or an associated characteristic. None of the scriptures are able to provide an essential indication or an inherent characteristic of God. An inherent characteristic or an essential indication is a Swarupa Lakshanam. Swarupa Lakshana means to know the actual nature of God. That no scripture can reveal that to you because it is beyond your imagination. The Veda says that God is also able to know and think. In fact, it is said that God is omniscient. Hence, God also is a subject. Previously, we were looking at the process of knowing, where we were saying that the human being who is seeing the pot, that human being is the subject, the pot is the object. And then who is the exact subject? The awareness of the human being, we said, is the subject. Now we are looking at the context of God. Now God can also be a subject. We saw that the soul is a subject when the soul is watching the part, but now God here is also a type of subject, but we are going to see how God is a subject, but a different kind of subject. You cannot compare the two. Uh, that we are going to see now. So here God is also a subject, but is he the same relative awareness or basic awareness which we had earlier identified as the subject? No, God is not that relative awareness. The instruments used by God to get the knowledge of objects are also not the relative awareness. In the case of the soul, the subject was awareness. The instruments used, the antakaranams, they were also awareness. Everything was made out of awareness. But if you look at the case of God, is the subject, which is God himself, is he awareness? No, he is not. Are the instruments used by God to get the knowledge or to get that information, are they also made of relative awareness? No. So this is because in God, neither inert energy nor matter exists. Matter in the form of the material nervous system and inert energy in the body of the living being are essential prerequisites